Playing new messages.
Hi there, I'm calling in regards to your missing cat. Good news, I have your cat. Or rather, what remains of your cat. Now, when I say remains, you're probably thinking that your cat is dead? Well, not quite. It's a bit more complicated than that. You see, parts of your cat are alive and well, and that poses a serious problem. I got your number from one of the missing posters. Not gonna lie, that $2,000 reward sure grabbed my attention. I figured you really loved your cat and that there was nothing out of the ordinary about it, so I kept my eyes peeled. Then, early morning a few days ago, I walked down Robson Street. This particular stretch of pavement has seen better days. Abandoned buildings with gaping black windows line both sides of this narrow and uninviting road. I was by myself and sweating nervously. I didn't see a soul. But still, I swear I could feel 1,000 eyes staring at me from the shadowed recesses of the derelict storefronts. I was approaching a yawning, garbage-strewn alleyway when I heard a blood-curdling scream. Most nights I steer clear of frantic shouting, especially when it emerges from the narrow crevices between abandoned buildings. Usually I would walk faster and hope that someone else would deal with it. This time was different. I felt like I was passing through a fresh automotive accident and that I ought to slow down so I could oogle the distress of others. I investigated and descended deep into the dumpster-lined back street. I heard another shriek just before stumbling upon a terrified homeless man sitting on the ground. He was pleading, "Leave me alone." His back was pressed up hard against a large metal dumpster and his hands were covering his face. He shrunk like he was expecting an incoming blow. He looked up at me as I approached, and never before have I seen such a look of absolute horror on another man's face. In front of him, about 3 feet away, was the cat I saw in the poster. One white and grey, short-haired tabby. The cat you know and love. She was cleaning herself, licking her paws like a normal cat, and seemingly oblivious to the screams of the cowering man. I hunkered down and approached the pair cautiously. I didn't want to scare the cat away. I felt like I was inches away from a furry lottery ticket worth $2,000, and I wasn't going to take any chances. "Here, Puss Puss," I said, making soothing clicking sounds with the tip of my tongue. As I drew closer, the homeless man turned to me and cried, "Stay away or this thing will kill us both." At the time, I assumed the man was high as a kite. I thought it was just the cat. In hindsight, he was right, and I should have listened. But can you blame me? All evidence suggested he was tripping on something strong. I put my hands up in submission and said, "It's okay, man, I just want the cat." I kept moving forward, and I was almost within grabbing range when the cat reared up, hissed at me, and darted into the alley. I swore and said goodbye to $2,000. I turned back to the homeless man, and he was breathing an audible sigh of relief. "You saved my life, brother," he said. He grew calm and surprisingly sober after the cat disappeared. I got to talking with him. He said his name was Pete, and that he's lived in the area for years. I asked him how the little cat could possibly make him so upset, and he claimed that for the last couple weeks, your white and grey, short-haired tabby has been hunting him. I raised incredulous eyebrows and said to him, "All right, Pete, while I'm not entirely convinced that you are being hunted, if you help me catch this cat, we'll split the reward 50-50 and you'll be cat-free." He shook his head emphatically and said, "No, sir, ain't no way I'm getting close to that thing." He became pretty upset over the suggestion, like I was going to use him as bait to catch a lion. "No worries, dude," I said. I tried to placate him with a couple of bucks before going home. As I was leaving, I heard Pete shout from over my shoulder, That cat wants my babies, and she's not going to get them. The next day, I got to thinking that maybe your cat was slumming in that alley. I reckoned if I came back during the evening, I might find your cat prowling around again. So that night, I returned to the alley, and once more I found Pete sitting on the ground by the same dumpster. He was rocking back and forth and was clearly distressed. He looked to be cradling something in his lap. Hey Pete, you doing alright? I asked. He glared up at me with a pained grimace. That goddamn cat took my hands, he cried. He held his arms in front of him and presented 2 fresh stumps. The wounds looked recent and appeared to be cauterized. Pete! I exclaimed. What the hell happened to you? I just saw you a day ago. That cat, she came for me after you left. He went on an excited and rambling rant about how your cat has been scheming to harvest his body parts. I didn't believe a word of it. No way a cat could do that. Not in a million years. Cats chase birds and throw around catnip pillows. They certainly don't perform forced surgeries on a destitute street population. All right, sorry about that, I said. I didn't know what else I could tell him. Clearly, he was the victim of some very recent bodily tragedy, but there wasn't much I could do for him. Maybe I'd give him some of the reward money if I found the cat. So I asked him, Did you see where the cat went? He aimed a stump towards the building that loomed overhead. I seen it crawling around, way up above us, clinging to the walls like a bug. Every night, I hear her dragging God knows what up there. Abruptly, his eyes widened, and he started sputtering. Look, there she is now. I quickly spun my gaze upward and found the cat scaling the building 4 stories up. It was dark and difficult to clearly observe the elusive feline. Nevertheless, I swear I saw your cat clinging onto the wall with 2 human hands instead of furry cat paws. I made a desperate, "Here, kitty kitty," to no avail, and watched her disappear onto the roof. I went over to Pete. You should really go to the hospital, I said. Pete shook his head. Hell no, that cat is waiting for me to let my guard down. The moment I leave this alley, that monster is going to pounce on me and harvest my precious seed. He looked up at the imposing structure in front of me. I didn't feel like climbing that building and decided I would try again the next night. I gave Pete another $2 and left the alley. On the 3rd night, I came up with a plan that I thought was flawless and inspired. This time, I came up to the alley prepared. I brought an old cat carrier, a bag of kitty treats, and my secret weapon, a cucumber. Here's how it was supposed to play out. I was going to find where the cat was hiding and plant the cucumber beside it. Then, I was going to lure the cat out with a handful of treats. Hopefully, the cat would exit her shelter to nibble the treats. I then approached the cat, causing her to take off towards the cucumber. She would then fling herself into the air, and I would take this opportunity to catch her and deposit her into the cat carrier. I was super impressed with this plan, and I felt very smart. I also convinced myself there was no way the cat had human hands. What I witnessed was all in my mind. It was dark, the cat was 4 stories up, and I was falling under the lull of Pete's hallucinogenic ravings. The sudden absence of Pete's hands, though, was definitely a mystery. When I returned to the alley, I found what remained of Pete. I saw a crumpled pile of clothes in front of the dumpster. I leaned over and picked up Pete's jacket. It was damp and oozed something wet that resembled viscera. I dropped it to the ground. It wasn't like Pete to leave his spot. I remembered how desperate he was not to leave the protection of that particular dumpster. I convinced myself that maybe he did go to the hospital after all. But I couldn't explain all the gore. I returned to my original task. I walked up and down the alley, but failed to find the cat. I remember Pete said something about hearing the cat dragging stuff up to the roof, and the last time I saw the cat, she was on the side of the building, climbing towards the top. I reasoned that the cat must have some kind of shelter up on high. I found the stair ladder of an external fire escape, and, carrying the cat carrier, I climbed up the 4 stories to the roof. The ladder was awkward with a cage in tow, but I somehow managed to weasel my way up the side of the building without fail. On the roof, next to the dormant HVAC unit, I found a cat nest made from garbage. It was domed and resembled a 4-man tent. It was made up of a mishmash of couch cushions, tattered clothes, and old newspapers. On one side, there was a gash of an opening, and as I drew closer, I could hear movement from within. Time to enact my plan. I put the cat carrier on the ground, opened the cage door, and placed a handful of treats inside. I took out the cucumber and placed it by the entrance. Then I placed a handful of treats on the ground, crouched near the entrance, and cooed. "Here, kitty kitty." I heard a low rumble from inside as the cat emerged. Over the course of 3 short days, the cat had undergone a profound transformation, and now it was barely recognizable. I was instantly paralyzed when I saw the monstrosity emerge. First, it cautiously stuck its head out. Its grey and white fur was falling off in patches, allowing me to bear witness to rows of porcupine-like spikes emerging from her brow. Her already large feline eyes must have grown 3 times their original size. Now they bulged out of her skull like an exotic tree frog. Then there were her teeth. Row upon row of jagged incisors rimmed her oversized mouth. She glared at me with desperate hunger in her grotesque eyes. Then she slowly unhinged the jaw, causing her to resemble a morbid Cheshire shark. All in all, she was now the size of a fully grown lion, no longer the demure form of a simple house cat. She started advancing on me, and when she placed her first paw forward, I realized there was still one further horror that remained to be witnessed. She had a human hand. I flinched back away in terror. I was expecting a cat, not some nightmare-inducing aberration. She drew closer and closer, and I understood that I was no longer the hunter. Now I was the prey of some hungry and malformed beast. Lines of drool cascaded off her needle-sharp teeth. I was certain that the hellspawn was going to eat me, and the only avenue of escape was off the side of the building. Then, from down along the street, a car blasted its horn. The cat, now less than a foot away from me, swung its head towards the source of the disturbance. She saw the cucumber, and the effect was immediate. She shrieked an ear-piercing banshee howl and jumped so high that she flung herself off the roof. Moments later, I heard a loud, crushing impact from the alley below. I ran to the ledge and looked down. It was hard to see, but it appeared as though the cat had broken into many pieces. I was overjoyed that my life was no longer in danger, but at the same time, I was disappointed that, despite my best efforts, I would not see the $2,000. Then I heard a chorus of concerned mewling coming from the cat nest. I approached the garbage hovel and looked inside. I found a dozen kittens, all of them covered in short grey and white fur. At first, this sight was adorable. Then I inspected the animals closer and was shocked to find that each had the body of a cat and the unmistakable face of Pete, the homeless man. I watched the deformed kittens squirm and writhe. They were hideous abominations, but I couldn't just leave them up there. So I placed them all in the cat carrier and gingerly made my descent back down to the alley. Back at ground level, I found the remains of your cat. I assumed that thing was dead. Smashing to the ground and shattering into a dozen pieces tends to have a high rate of mortality. Instead, each segment of your cat seemed to be animated by its own internal energy. Its tail was winding its way around like a snake, and I saw two long cat legs dragging themselves away with human hands. At last, I found your cat's head, propped upright against Pete's favourite dumpster. She was making this pathetic meowing noise, and it broke my heart. I found a discarded cardboard box and placed your cat's head inside. So now I'm back home. Your cat's head escaped from the box. It looks as though a dozen or so chitinous spider-like legs have grown out of your cat's neck and is now scurrying around my apartment frantically, climbing up the walls and hissing at me. To make matters worse, all the kittens in the cat carrier are shrieking. They all sound just like Pete did when I first met him in the alley. It is a tremendously horrible sound to endure. Now, I'll sum up and get to my point. I think I have earned that $2,000. Please, call me back so we can discuss the reward money. I can be reached at 25934. End of message.